you have legal questions. Amy the attorney has the answers. Welcome to today's show. And here's Amy.
All right, so now we're going to get into the stages of this kind of case, kind of take us from A to Z of, car wreck happening, and then Z being either a trial or a settlement, and just kind of what are the stages in between, because then that way people have an idea. And also, if you can give on the back end of that question, how long does this take? How long would this process take? And I know that those factors are variable, but give us an A to Z first, and then I'll ask the other question.
Sure thing. So the problem with all of us is that the way the law is depicted on television, whether it's a criminal case or a civil case, everything is condensed and it seems to happen pretty quickly. And one of my favorite sayings is, do you want it done fast or do you want it done right? And of course, there are extremes, and sometimes things can be handled quickly, but typically what I tell my clients to do after they've been in an accident and after they have me on board is to just simply, in the short term, take care of themselves. So go see a doctor. Do what that doctor recommends. If the doctor recommends that you go to a neurologist or to an orthopedist, follow that advice. If you don't have health insurance, don't be embarrassed. Talk to me, because there is no shortage of doctors even in the metro area who will see somebody without insurance and provide proper treatment. And then, of course, they'll expect something out of your settlement when it's all over with. But take care of yourself is the first thing. Keep a journal of what your symptoms are. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It doesn't have to be something that you do every single day even, but just periodically make a note of how you are feeling, how much pain you're in on a scale from 1 to 10, what you're not able to do, whether it's picking up your child, getting out of bed in the morning, doing your job, any of those things. Just keep a good record of that, because really lawyers like to think they know everything, but only you know what's going on inside of you. And you are the best historian and the best curator of information. So in the short term, I'm kind of getting a little far afield. After the accident, the first thing is take care of yourself. Find out what's wrong with you and continue to get treatment. And if you're not getting an answer that satisfies you from your primary care doctor, demand to see a specialist. Make an appointment with a specialist on your own if your insurance allows it. Be vocal about things that are wrong. I can't tell you how many times I've had clients go in and the emergency room, their job is to save your life. So they'll run a CAT scan and that might be negative, for example, or an x-ray might be negative, but you still don't feel right. And your doctor just wants to give you Advil, for example. If you're having numbness, ask for a nerve conduction study. If you're having issues with movement of your joints, ask to go see an orthopedist. So that's the biggest chunk of the aftermath of a car wreck, is my client being their own health advocate with my guidance and getting the treatment that they need so that they find out what's wrong with them and get that fixed. And nothing can happen in the way of money being paid until you have figured out what's wrong with you and you've exhausted your treatment options. You're at what doctors call maximum medical improvement. And that doesn't mean you have to go all the way to surgery. You may decide that, hey, I'm not going to get any better unless I have surgery, and I don't want to have surgery. But you need to run your symptoms and your treatment to ground before you can really get your head around what the value of your case is. So that's the first piece of it, is my clients getting the treatment they need, me getting their medical records, me getting their billing records, me forestalling collection efforts. Because sometimes right out of the gate, people go get emergency room treatment, particularly people without insurance, and they get bills for tens of thousands of dollars in the mail. And I tell my clients, keep track of everything that comes in the mail. Let me see it and let me be your mouthpiece. Let me send a letter to those creditors, to those healthcare providers saying, hey, she's got a lawyer on the case. I promise to take care of you with your bill after the settlement is over. Don't keep harassing her for money. Don't impact this person's credit. Let me be the go-between.
So they come to you, they've signed up as a client, they're taking care of themselves, you're taking care of medical records, you're taking care of debt collectors, people that are coming after them. So then what is the next stage? And they've got their diagnosis. What else are you going to do, and how does the case get moved on?
So the way the case gets moved on is once I know what's wrong with my client, what treatment they've received, what bills they've incurred, what wages they have lost, how it's impacted them personally. Once I have my head around all of that and I've compiled all of those records, I put everything together and submit a demand to the insurance company. And sometimes it's easy to know what demand to make because the at-fault driver's insurance limits aren't very high. So that makes it easy to send off a letter with all of the supporting documentation and demand policy limits. And then that opens up a different can of worms with things like underinsured motorist coverage. But frequently, there is a dispute over liability, over who caused the accident, or over the comparative levels of fault between the two drivers. Sometimes an insurance adjuster will say, well, your client's 25% at fault. So you can get into these real conflicts about who's at fault, how much they're at fault, how much the insurance company is going to pay. I have a pretty good sense about people, and I have a pretty good sense early on whether I'm going to get a cooperative claims adjuster or somebody that's going to push back and try to fight every battle. If I get that kind of claims adjuster, I just file a lawsuit. And that's me drafting what's called a petition and filing it in state court and getting that case moved from a claims adjuster to a lawyer who represents the insurance company that insures the at-fault driver. So
would your client be doing anything like when you say, okay, you know what, we're moving on. We're not going to deal with this adjuster anymore. We're going to go ahead and file a lawsuit. Would they be notified of that?
Yes, my contracts, they're not very long, but they drive home the point that nothing is done without my client being in the loop. So I have virtual files for my clients. So every time I write a letter and send it to somebody, they get an immediate notification on their phone that I've done something. But nothing gets done. Demands for money are not made without my client's permission. Cases aren't settled without my client's permission. Lawsuits aren't filed. I work with my clients. I'm not the type of lawyer that hides behind the curtain and leaves the clients who've hired me to guess about what's being done. So at every stage, they know what's going on. And the filing of a lawsuit is a big deal because pretty soon we're on the defensive. And the lawyers for the insurance company will hit us with written questions that have to be answered under oath. Some are very prying. They might immediately schedule my client's deposition where they have to sit at a conference table in some strange office and be questioned for hours by a lawyer. So because it's such a big deal and because it impacts my client's life, they know what they're getting into before I jump in.